He was born a slave, owned like property, and he became freer than the emperor who ruled Rome. Epictetus, a man who had zero control over his life. No rights, no freedom, no say in what happened to him. His master even broke his leg just because he could. And through all of that, Epictetus discovered something that changed everything. Something that made him more powerful than people who had actual power. Something that's still the secret to freedom today. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. And that's the only power you'll ever need. So let's go back. About 2,000 years ago, ancient Rome, Epictetus is a slave. Property, less than human in the eyes of the law. He can be bought, sold, beaten, killed, and there's nothing he can do about it. His master is cruel, abusive. One day, his master is twisting his leg, hurting him just because he can. And Epictetus says calmly, "If you keep doing that, you're going to break it." The master keeps going. The leg breaks, and Epictetus just looks at him and says, "I told you." No screaming, no begging, no breakdown, just calm observation. As if watching something happen to someone else. As if the pain is just information, not torture. How is that possible? How does someone stay calm while their leg is being broken, while they're being tortured, while they're completely powerless? Because Epictetus understood something most people never learn. There are two types of things in life. Things you can control and things you can't. And your peace, your power, your freedom, all of that lives in knowing the difference. You can't control what happens to you. Your master breaks your leg. You can't control that. Someone insults you. You can't control that. You lose your job. You can't control that. Life throws problems at you constantly, and you have zero control over most of them. But here's what you can control: your response, your thoughts, your attitude, your character, how you interpret what happens, what meaning you give it, whether you let it destroy you or make you stronger. That's your domain. That's your power. And nobody can take it from you unless you give it away. Not your master. Not circumstances. Not other people. Nobody. Epictetus watches people waste their entire lives trying to control things they can't control. Trying to control other people's opinions, other people's actions. The weather, the past, the future, outcomes, and they make themselves miserable because none of that is actually in their power. Meanwhile, they ignore the one thing they can control: themselves, their own mind, their own response. And because they ignore the only thing they have power over, they end up powerless everywhere. So he starts teaching. He gets freed from slavery eventually, becomes a philosopher, and everything he teaches comes back to this one principle: focus on what you can control. Let go of everything else. He breaks it down clearly. You can't control what other people think of you. So stop trying. Stop performing. Stop people-pleasing. Stop caring so much about their opinions. That's not in your control. What is in your control? Being someone worth respecting. Living according to your values. Being honest, that's yours. You can't control whether people like you, but you can control whether you're likable. You can't control whether they approve, but you can control whether you're someone who deserves approval. See the difference. One is outside your power, one is inside it. He says the same thing about success. You can't control outcomes. You can work hard, do everything right, and still fail. The market crashes. The timing is wrong. Someone else gets lucky. Whatever. Outcomes aren't fully in your control. But effort, that's yours. Attitude, yours. Quality of work, yours. Learning from failure, yours. Whether you show up every day and do your best, yours. That's your domain. That's your power. And here's the key. When you focus only on what you control, you stop being a victim. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop waiting for the world to change before you can be okay. Because your okayness doesn't depend on the world. It depends on you. Epictetus is a slave. Literally owned by another person. Most people in that situation would feel completely powerless, would be consumed by bitterness and rage, would be broken by the injustice. But not Epictetus, because he knows his master can control his body, but not his mind, can hurt him, but not make him suffer, can own him, but not break him. His inner world, his thoughts, his character, his response, that's still his. And as long as he has that, he's free. He said, "No one can hurt you without your permission." That sounds crazy at first. Obviously, people can hurt you. They can insult you, betray you, physically harm you. But Epictetus is making a distinction. They can cause you pain, but suffering, that's your choice. Suffering is what you add to the pain, the meaning you give it, the story you tell yourself about it. Someone insults you. That's the event. But whether that insult destroys your day, whether you replay it over and over, whether you let it affect your self-worth, that's your choice. That's the part you control. The insult is outside your control. Your response to it is inside your control. And most people spend all their energy on the thing they can't control while ignoring the thing they can. They try to make people stop insulting them, stop disappointing them, stop hurting them. And they can't, because you can't control other people. So they stay stuck, powerless, victims. But if you focus on your response, if you control what you actually can control, you're free. Someone insults you and you just don't care. You don't give them that power over you. You recognize their words are outside your control, but your reaction is inside it, and you choose not to react. That's power, real power. Not the power to control others. The power to control yourself. Now let's make this practical. Because you're trying to control things you can't control right now. And it's making you miserable. You're probably worried about what people think, about your reputation, about how you're perceived. And you're trying to manage all of that, trying to control their opinions. But you can't. Their thoughts are not in your control. What is in your control? Being yourself, being honest, being consistent, being someone you respect. Do that and let people think whatever they want. Because their thoughts about you are their problem, not yours. Or you're probably stressed about the future. About whether things will work out, whether you'll be okay, whether your plans will succeed. And you're trying to control outcomes that haven't happened yet, but you can't. The future isn't in your control. What is in your control? What you do today. The effort you put in, the choices you make, the person you become. Focus on that. Do what you can do today and let tomorrow take care of itself, because tomorrow isn't yours to control anyway. Here's another one. You're probably frustrated with people. They're not acting the way you want, not meeting your expectations, not being who you need them to be, and you're trying to change them, control them, make them different, but you can't. Other people aren't in your control. What is in your control? Whether you accept them as they are or walk away. Whether you adjust your expectations or end the relationship. Whether you keep trying to change them or focus on changing yourself. That's your power. Not making them different. Making better choices about who you engage with and how. Epictetus lived this completely. He had a brutal life. Slavery, abuse, poverty even after he was freed. But he was at peace. Not because his circumstances were good, but because he focused only on what he could control. his thoughts, his responses, his character, and that made him freer than the emperor. Because the emperor was controlled by circumstances, by what people thought, by trying to maintain power, by fear of losing what he had. He had all the external power and no internal freedom. Epictetus had no external power and complete internal freedom. And that's the paradox. Real freedom doesn't come from controlling your circumstances. It comes from not needing to. When your peace depends on things going your way, you're a slave to circumstances. When your happiness depends on people treating you right, you're a slave to other people. When your worth depends on success, you're a slave to outcomes. But when your peace comes from inside, when you're okay regardless of what happens, when you know you'll handle whatever comes because you control your response, that's freedom. That's power. That's what Epictetus discovered in Chains. He said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Most people have it backwards. They think if they could just control what happens to them, then they'd be happy. If people would just treat them better, if circumstances would just align, if they could just get what they want. But that's slavery. Because you're making your happiness depend on things you can't control. You're giving your power away to circumstances and other people and outcomes. Epictetus says, take your power back. Stop trying to control what you can't. Start controlling what you can. Your effort, your attitude, your response, your character. That's your domain. That's your freedom. And when you do this, when you really live this, everything changes. You stop being a victim. You stop being controlled by circumstances. You stop giving your power away to people who don't deserve it. You become free. Not free from problems. Free in the middle of problems. Not free from pain. Free despite pain. Not free from challenges. Free to face them without being broken by them. That's what Epictetus achieved. And he did it while being a slave. Which means, if he could do it in his circumstances, you can do it in yours. You have more external freedom than he ever had. The question is whether you'll develop the internal freedom he mastered. Most people won't. They'll keep trying to control everything except themselves. They'll keep being slaves to circumstances, to opinions, to outcomes, to things outside their power. But you can be different. You can do what Epictetus did. Focus on what you control. Let go of everything else. And in doing that, find a freedom that nobody can take from you. Because real power isn't controlling the world. It's controlling yourself. And that's available to you right now. No matter what's happening, no matter what you've lost, no matter what you can't change, your response is still yours. Your thoughts are still yours. Your character is still yours. And that's enough. That's everything. That's the only power you'll ever need. Subscribe for more truths that free you from what you can't control.